God, my heart sank to the bottom of my stomach. Hi guys, thank you so much for clicking on this video and welcome to my channel. My name is Nyasha Rudo and I hope you're keeping well and you're keeping safe. On today's video, we've got a little story time, as you can already see from the title. I'll be telling you guys how I waited 7 months for my study visa. Before we get straight into the nitty-gritty details of the story, just a disclaimer, this is my personal experience and it does not in any way reflect on other people's experiences, so do take it with a pinch of salt. So straight into the video. So the story started November 2020. I got admitted into the University of Cape Town to study towards my bachelor's degree. I was in South Africa at that time under visitor's visa, but then I was advised to go back to Zimbabwe to apply for my study visa. So on November 4th, I left for Zim, and on the 6th of November is the day I went to submit my application at the VFS offices. If you don't know what the VFS is, it's just a visa forwarding company that offers visa forwarding services for applications for visas to South Africa. So basically they act as a mediator between the applicant and the South African government.
Who is responsible for the visa applications, the embassy, whatever.
So I submitted my application and I asked the person who was serving me how long was I going to have to wait for this visa to come out, and they told me that I would have to wait for a minimum of 6 weeks and a maximum of 8 weeks. I was devastated. I was kind of a bit disappointed, but there was nothing I could do because they were going to take my passport with them. So I submitted my application and I left, and I'd pretty much come to terms with the fact that I'll probably have to be here for at least 2 months. So November passed, December passed, I went on with my life, doing what I needed to do, and January came. I was expecting either an SMS or an email telling me that my visa was ready for be collected, because it had to have been at least 6 or 7 to 8 weeks, because I applied early November. So if you counted from early November to the end of December, it would have been about 6-7 weeks. So I was expecting the SMS or an email, of which I did not get early January. Mid-January, is getting a bit worried, you know, kept on checking emails, kept on checking SMS, and with the SMS said
that I had paid for
a whole $2, which to
This point, it's still paining me. It is still paining me because the money was never used for what it was supposed to be used for.
Paid a whole $2 for an SMS, which I never received until the point I got my visa. But anyway, backtrack to the story. Mid-January, nothing. End of January, I ended up calling the VFS. I decided, let me call the VFS offices and try and find out what is going on, if there's a delay of some sort. So I called them and they basically told me, ma'am, the only visas that we're receiving right now are for people who applied mid-October. So I was like, okay, mid-October is January now. Maybe there was a delay, you know, because of the whole coronavirus and stuff. So I was like, okay, I was patient. So beginning February, still I did not get an SMS or an email. They told me when I called them that if your visa was out, they would surely send the email or the SMS since I had paid for it. So early February, nothing. Mid-February, nothing. Now I was getting really worried because at my university, pre-registration had opened. And pre-registration is a process where international students have to submit their immigration documents in order for them to register for their courses prior to registering for their courses. I don't know how other universities do it, but I think it's kind of the same process for all universities throughout South Africa for international students. So I could not pre-register because I didn't have a passport and I didn't have a visa. So mid-February, I decided, let me call them. It's, you know, school is starting on the 15th of March. I haven't heard anything from them. They're not saying anything, nothing at all. So let me call them. I called them and they're like, ma'am, we have nothing. There is nothing for you. Basically, that's what they said. So, hey, I was devastated, of course. I was like, okay, it's okay. Then later that week, I remember I received an email and I was so excited. I thought, okay, probably my visa is out now. It's time for me to go back home. Home, I mean South Africa, because this is where my family lives. So I'm excited. I proceed to open the email and oh my God, my heart sank to the bottom of my stomach. I was like, what? Are you serious? So I read the email and this is what the email said. Dear applicant, we regret to inform you. Now, you know, wherever you see regret to inform you, it's a disaster. It's a disaster. It's a disaster, you know. You know what I mean? It's a disaster. So they're like, dear applicant, we regret to inform you that your application came back with a query. This point, I'm like, query? What does that even mean? What do you mean it came back with a query? So, I read the email, I scrolled down, they're like, the South African embassy is requesting that you submit a South African police clearance because at the time that you wrote matric, you're already 18. I'm like, you waited 4 months to tell me this? Really? Really? Talk about professionalism. Really? I was so gutted. I was beyond disappointed. My problem is you're waiting for 4 months to tell me this. You couldn't tell me this beforehand. School is starting in 2 weeks. What do you expect me to do? What do you want me to do? So I was really like panicking. So I called my dad. I'm like, Dad, they're saying that they need a South African police clearance because apparently at the time I wrote matric, I was 18. Now listen, I'm not gonna deny that at the time that I wrote matric, I was already 18. Yes, I was. But the reason why I did not submit a South African police clearance is because on the requirement for the study visa, it clearly stated that I only needed to submit a South African police clearance in the case that when I wrote matric, I was 18. Yes, I admit to that. But I had stayed in South Africa for a year or longer after I had turned 18. I had not stayed in South Africa for a year or longer after I turned 18. I stayed there for 11 months. Like, my passport is there. Why you can't count? Don't you have things in your databases to show you that I was never there for a year? So I was just like, this is I was so disappointed because I'm like, these are your rules and you're telling me something different. If you want a police clearance when somebody turns 18 in your country, just say so. Don't give conditions, and then when they don't give you what you wanted because your conditions said otherwise, you can't come and tell me that you still need the piece of paper. Anyway, there was nothing I could do at this point, so I told my dad they're requesting for South African police clearance. I don't know what I'm gonna do. My dad was like, it's okay, you went to the nearest police station, and he was advised that I should get my fingerprints taken from Zimbabwe and then get the forms this side, and then they would have to submit them at the police headquarters in Pretoria, because if they submitted them at our local police station, it would then take 12 to 15 weeks. But then if they submitted them at the headquarters, it would take about 8 weeks. I was just like, you know what, I'm not going to university. It's okay, might as well just start next year. There's nothing I can do, Sha. So I got those fingerprints sorted and I sent them back to South Africa. My parents submitted them for me in Pretoria, and at that point I was like to my dad, please now, if you have to beg
Them now, beg. If you must cry, Abby, cry. I need a miracle. I need a miracle.
because there is no way I'm deferring my place to next year. I don't think that's possible. Okay, I just don't want to. I don't want to defer my place to next year. So please, miracle, you must come now, you know. So they basically begged, I guess, but it didn't work. It was to no avail, Sha. It was to no avail. They told me, listen, sister, you just gotta have to wait for 8 weeks. And I'm laughing about it now, but it really wasn't a joke then. I was really just going through the most at that point. Then my dad decided to call the university and explain the situation. He called the university and explained the situation, and the university was like, listen, there's so many other international students who are going through the same thing. Don't worry, we'll allow you to register because your degree is going to be online this year. So that's how I managed to register for the year and how I managed to start a school for this year without having a visa. But they allowed me to register with my receipt that I had applied, that in fact that I had applied for a visa. So I just, for the South African government, you know, I have nothing to say. Like it's very frustrating that they have such long waiting periods for study visas, especially. Another big mistake that I made was that I went to read reviews on the whole process of study visas, and it didn't help me at all because 90% of those reviews was just bad reviews, and how the waiting period was ridiculous, and how they just need to improve on that regard. So that was really bad. So my advice then to anybody who wants to apply for a study visa to South Africa, do it well before time, at least 6 months before, because you don't know what challenges you're gonna face, you don't know what's gonna happen, because it seems like their waiting periods are quite lengthy, and it is very frustrating when you have school that's starting and you still don't have your documents in place. I just wanted to say the South African government needs to do better. Like on that regard, it really needs to do better. It really does. So thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure to give this video a big thumbs up. Leave a comment down below if you've had the similar experience. It may not be applying for a visa to South Africa, maybe other countries that you'd like to share. Leave a comment down below, and remember, be kind to one another. Bye.